just set a philosophical trap for you guys. Do each of my particular purchases contribute to particular suffering? If I hadn't laid the groundwork, you might have been resisting this idea. Maybe my dollar just pays for the rent of the CAFO, or just pays for the worker's salary, or something like that. But I think it's exactly analogous to the way a charity works. When you give a small amount of money to a CAFO, or to an organization that buys their meat from a CAFO, you are purchasing a small slice of suffering for all the animals that suffer during that moment in time. And it's going to be based on the operating costs of the CAFO. So each moment the CAFO operates costs money. We could say, if they have like a wealthy donor or whatever, they would say, oh, you're paying for our operational costs for a year. Thanks, now we can use that money for something else. Similarly, when you give them your money, you're paying for their operation costs for a small amount of time. I just said that. Thank you, Jarvis. During that moment, the CAFO causes thousands of animals to suffer. And that's your moment. It's the one you are paying for. So your purchase causes thousands of animals to suffer. For that moment, the purchase pays for it. Now, I'm not accusing you guys of being bad people or anything. I'm just following reason. So try not to react emotionally or defensively. I really don't think ill of any of you guys right now. I'm just trying to make an argument. And when I say, it's just the general. I didn't want to say one. I didn't want to say one over and over and over again. So are we still friends? Let's start putting things back together. We broke things down. We sort of examined how the pieces work. CAFOs cause suffering. Purchasing from CAFOs contributes to the suffering, even if it's just a tiny amount. Okay, now we're just going to start looking for the reaching objections. But the premise said something about overall, Seth. You didn't say anything about overall. What exactly is this overall you're talking about? These are your two options anytime you're making a decision to purchase meat that is the result of a factory farm, the product of a factory farm. If you purchase the product, thousands of animals suffer for a moment as a result of that purchase. If you don't purchase the product, how much do you suffer? So that's the comparison I want to make when we sort of evaluate overall. Is there more overall suffering for this one or this one? Now if you're Jeremy Wynn, negative shout out, you would try to say that...
It's going to come tonight.
Yeah, I think I scared him up. You watching Jeremy? Is that even recording? Oh, I switched it over. Did I go too long?
No.
Okay.
Battery died or something.
Oh, battery died. So I think most people will agree that the thousands of animals suffering for a small moment in time outweighs my suffering that results from not purchasing the product. I got a head shake from Tony.
Those Chick-fil-A sandwiches,
They're really good.
Yeah,
They're really
tasty.
tasty. I love them, man.
Gay rights stuff. Like, you can combine that and still the sandwich is better. That's not my face.
Good things don't matter. Remember? Bad things.
Oh, they matter. They matter. But I think bad things matter more.
Right, I agree.
Okay.
Right, so I suffer more.
For me, and for most people, not Jeremy Wynn, a negligible amount of suffering, if any, results from avoiding CAFO purchases. So that's what I mean by it making more overall suffering. Nice try, Jeremy. Continuing. Another stretch of an objection. Yeah, but is it an action? Because in your argument you said it was an action. Yeah, it's an action. All right. There we go. It gets the blood red check mark. Premise 2. There it is. Purchasing CAFO products is an action that contributes to more overall suffering. Remember, premise 1 said, an action that contributes to more overall suffering is morally bad. And we just apply logic and we get, therefore, purchasing CAFO products is morally bad. Oh, what are you doing here? Get out of here! He's got a question. That's not a question. Okay. Okay, he wants to know why he should care. Why should he care about animals? He just doesn't care about animals. Okay, so he agrees my argument is a good argument. But he just doesn't care. Right? By far the most common response I personally encounter to these arguments. Well, what is caring? One thing it is sharing. Okay? But another thing is, it's a feel. It's a sort of feel. Right? Caring is a sort of feel. But feels aren't rational. Okay? Now, if you agree that my argument is a good one, but you just don't care, so you're not going to accept the conclusion, or you want me to give you a reason to care, you're basically asking for pictures for me to stimulate your feels, right? And we agreed that that was sort of beneath you guys as an audience. That would be sort of appealing to your emotions, right? But here's a baby. Is this what you want? No, I'm not going to sink to your level. I don't appeal to feels. And if you need feels in order to accept a conclusion, you are irrational. Jarvis, get rid of the baby. Yes, right away, sir. Jarvis. Okay. This is what we're going to use. We're going to use reason and science to evaluate the conclusion. It really doesn't matter whether you care about the non-human animals or not. What matters is, do you want to be good, morally good? So that's the motivation we want to key in on. And if you do want to be morally good, you can't sort of pick and choose what follows from that based on science and reason. It's sort of like, you bought the ticket, pal. You said you wanted to be good without God or whatever, and we figured out how to do it, and now you're going to try to avoid the conclusion because all of a sudden you don't have the right emotions supporting the conclusion. Other people will say, why should I be good? Give me a moral argument to be good. I don't think that's my job. You know, compare that with a scientist first having to say, okay, here's why you want to have true empirical beliefs. And then I'm going to give support for what I think are true empirical beliefs. Why should I say, here's why you should be good, here's why you should want to be good, and then tell you how. I'm saying, if you want to be good, let's figure out how to do it. Same way here. If you want to have true empirical beliefs, here's how you do it. We say we can be good without God. Not every atheist I know, thinks there is such a thing as being morally good. I don't want to commit you guys to like an objective morality, although that's cool if you believe in one. I just want to say, whatever your sense of morally good is, I think the conclusion that we just sort of looked at, I think it follows from that. No matter what your view of morality, you're going to be committed to something like this, I think. Even if it's like a cultural relativism, why are dogfights bad? Why are dogfights morally bad? Why would buying a ticket to a dogfight be morally bad? So we agree with most animals it's wrong to sort of cause suffering to them. But we sort of draw a line around factory farming animals, for some sort of cognitive dissonance reasons, I think. Just because we say we can be good without God doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And I don't mean to sort of single out any theists in the room. This is, addressed to an atheist audience. Why would you think it's easy to be good without God? Why would you think it's every moral decision you make is going to be sort of in line with your sort of selfish preferences, right? Why would you think that would be the case?
Because an Atlas shrugged.
An Atlas shrugged, that's how it works. I think we should think hard around these parts. And making morally rational decisions can be hard. I think that's just something you have to accept. And you should get over it. Now, this is the real question slide. Yes, sir, Graham.
So what's the alternative to CAFOs?
Well, you can just not eat meat, or you can work hard to find, the farm that the pictures on the meat products show us, where the animals are allowed to sort of roam freely, either raised in an environment where they can feed themselves, they can get up, walk around, socialize with other animals, eat the food their digestive tracts evolved to eat. Like we shovel corn into cows, and cows can't digest corn. Yes?
You can go to eatwild.com and it'll show you a map of all the places that have grass-fed farms.
Very good, very good. So eat wild, eat wild.
Yeah.
So the alternative is to do a lot of homework and find sources of meat or other animal products, really, that are sort of responsibly grown as they were pre-industrial revolution, essentially. Although I will say it's not really necessary to eat meat, and you should be very skeptical about people who say they sort of raise the animals ethically and things like that, because there are laws making it a felony to go actually verify that. Why would that be the case? There's all kinds of misinformation going on, and because it's not even necessary to eat meat, I think it's better to just play it morally safe, so to speak, and avoid it. Yes?
Well, first, while it might not be ideal for cows to eat corn, certainly they can eat corn.
Yeah, obviously they can digest it to a certain extent, but it's like they have to cut holes in the side of their stomachs and like pull out the stuff that doesn't get passed through the tract. So they're like open holes in the cow's
Really?
stomach.
Was that? Okay.
I
I don't think they do that. Like you see, I saw that in foodie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that wasn't like they don't think they do that for all the cows. I think that was a specific for like testing.
Oh, was that
purposes.
misinformation?
I don't like that documentary, but
Okay, but
For like digestion research and.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I was wrong about that. I was just using that as an example
But-
of like how bad the conditions are. So if that's not the case, that's cool.
yeah, I was just gonna point. So what do you think about like CAFO-ish like dairy and egg production? Like
I think it's bad.
do you think it's just as morally?
Yeah, I mean,
bad?
it's a CAFO product. Nothing in this talk said anything specifically about meat. Any sort of factory farming products, like eggs, milk, cheese, I think the same conclusion applies. Now, obviously, I have a weak will as well. Every once in a while, I find myself like accidentally eating cheese or something like that. I'm like, damn it! Because it probably came from a CAFO. And I think to some extent, those animals suffer more because they're not allowed to die. Right? They're just forced to like keep suffering and producing the product. So yeah, I mean that's a really good point.
So you think veganism is the only morally defendable stance?
I think vegan is the morally best way to go, although I don't want to say anything in particular about diet, strangely enough. So I just think it's the conditions in the factory farms that cause the suffering that's bad, and contributing to those conditions is bad. So like hunting, I think is morally better than buying a cheeseburger from McDonald's, because the deer is sort of in its environment being a deer. They die relatively quickly. Even if it's sort of a drawn-out, bled-out death, they still suffer way less than any pig or cow in a CAFO. Or if you have your own farm and you're raising your animals and you sort of slaughter something, you're probably not going to be too cruel to it. And even if you were cruel, there's no way you can be more cruel to it than the cruelty that animals in CAFOs suffer. So I do think there's a spectrum, okay? And I think vegan is on the best end of the spectrum. But I don't want to say you guys should all go be vegans, because I just want to say stop buying meat or other products from factory farms and work on the veganism later. I'm not a vegan myself yet. Like I try to be, I kind of am drifting in that direction, but there are setbacks. There are setbacks.
So you can send this talk to Richard Carrier?
Richard Carrier, oh boy. He is a mean dude.
Yeah, I liked him when I first started like hearing about him and reading his stuff, and then he just got bad and
He
worse.
goes off the chain about that
Yeah.
arguments. I do not think I will send this to you.
Who is he?
Richard Carrier, he's like popular atheist speaker and writer. Real, what's the word?
Asshole.
There's one word. I was thinking he's like confrontational in the extreme. Is that fair? Really like sharp and aggressive.
I think
in his
actually
rhetoric.
he's more aggressive from the stuff in his that I've read at least, more aggressive towards vegetarians than theists.
Yeah.
What's his issue with it?
Insecure.
I think.
He is-
It's hard to say what his issue is, like what's prompting his emotional response. So he mostly addresses arguments that have to do with like the agricultural efficiency of CAFOs.
He says,
I didn't get into that.
well, it might be bad, but it's not as bad as they depict it. I'm like, but that's
Right.
really irrelevant, I think.
Right. So there are lots of arguments against contributing to CAFOs. Another one of which is just how horrible they are for the environment. Like they just destroy like all of the land around them and everything downstream. They pump the animals full of antibiotics, so the bacteria in the animals develop resistances to the antibiotics.
Well, just like us,
So we-
though. I mean,
It's even more though. What's it like?
They
40 or
usually-
50% of antibiotics go to
It's-
cows.
Yeah, and different from us is they do like constant antibiotics rather than
Yeah.
when they're sick.
Right. It's like
And
in
it would actually be beneficial if they gave them antibiotics when they got sick. And that's the problem with like organic farms is they can't give them antibiotics when they get sick, so they have to just let them die when otherwise they could be treated and it wouldn't be a problem. But,
Thank you.
Another argument, which I was wanting to say, but when you were talking about the moral issue, even if you don't want to go on a moral issue, the scientist, Robert Sapolsky, I forget what he teaches,
human behavioral.
he studies
At
humans,
Stanford.
but he also studies, cortisol, the stress hormone in animals.
Rhesus
and-
monkeys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that can also be shown to be increased in CAFOs, which decreases the quality of meat.
Wait, say that again? It increases the,
It decreases the quality of meat, the higher cortisol, stress levels.
oh, because
Yeah,
it's
it's
stressed
like
out
that.
and it's not,
I don't know
Okay.
whose name, I can't remember. She's like autistic, and she like completely redesigned the way that they do.
Temple Grandin.
mhm.
Yeah.
Good movie.
There's a condition in pigs too. It's like pale. Does anyone know? It's like a condition where like their muscle and their skin, like the meat that you eat, turns like pale and taut because of stress. And that's like the biggest thing for pork production that people try to eliminate, but you can't eliminate that in factory farms. They've even tried to insert like a hormone into the pigs to eliminate it, but their meat
Right. I
still.
mean, pigs are like, I think by most counts, smarter than dogs by like a hair. And they're in these like terrible conditions that no one would ever think about putting dogs in. Like, of course, they're just gonna be stressed out all the time. They're seriously on like grates or concrete and they can't move. They're surrounded by each other, you know, they nip at each other, they get annoyed with each other. There's just no relief ever. Yeah.
So do you think corporations like these huge fast food companies, do you think they would ever allow CAFOs to be done away with? CAFOs, sorry?
I don't think they could afford to.
They couldn't,
That's why it's so cheap.
yeah.
CAFOs are extremely economically efficient. They treat the animals like any other resource. So they maximize their profit by putting them in a small area, making it efficient to feed them. They make them grow really fast, all these types of things. So that the
It essentially
corporations-
sounds like a concentration camp for animals.
Yeah, I mean, it's been compared to that
Yeah.
many times before. I didn't want to make that comparison.
I will, it's okay.
Yeah. You brought it up. But yeah, I mean, it's strikingly similar. Obviously, they can't suffer on the same level that humans can. I mean, we have good reason to think that they can't anyway.
It's
But they can
immeasurable,
suffer to
really.
some extent.
If we found a way to develop more humane farms, would that reduce the suffering? We couldn't measure how much that reduces the suffering.
I think the ticket is artificially grown meat.
How does that work?
In a petri dish, stem cells, you grow the meat without a nervous system
I'm
attached.
so looking forward for some
yeah.
bacon, cruelty-free
Yeah.
bacon.
That would be the ticket, because if it doesn't have a nervous system, it can't suffer. It's just a, a plant.
You think you can play God?
Most people wouldn't buy that though because they would be weirded out by it.
Yeah.
Well, they'd have to do a lot of tests to see how it affects.
It would just be meat.
Way more expensive
It
too.
would just be meat.
Oh, yeah.
The big hurdle with it right
Good.
now is that they can't make it taste quite right yet.
Right, there's consistency, things like that.
Yeah.
And then naturopaths would hate it.
And eventually we can eat jaguar meat, which would be awesome.
Yeah,
So.
and grow
Yeah,
like our own
you can
jaguar.
sit down and have-
Burgers,
Yeah.
like $3.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Cruelty-free
Features
leather
for
too? Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
We're gonna have some real dinosaur chicken nuggets. For
So we can
Oh, that's what they are, buddy.
Yeah.
Did you see my slide?
So we could eat baby seal meat?
Exactly.
Someday.
Wow.
I mean, you could do it now, but I mean.
But yeah, I hope you feel like shit.
And not feel horrible.
They call a very closely related product veal. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Sounds like a shirt fabric to me.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna start up a business based on that idea. Veal shirts. Take off. Take off. Okay, this was it, I think. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.